Chosen one. Imagine this. A group of extraordinarily powerful individuals gathered around a polished mahogany table. Their conversation focused on a decision that will forever alter the course of your future. For months, your name has been at the center of their discussions, not as a mere label, but as a vibration carrying a rare spiritual frequency. According to psychological studies, this frequency is found in only a fraction of humanity, tied to a unique phenomenon known as inverse correlation behavior. The rare ability to become more generous under pressure instead of selfish, to show deeper compassion when wounded instead of retaliating with cruelty. This isn't the mindset of ordinary billionaires obsessed with stock prices or short-term gains. These are the select few who understand that real power is not just about wealth or influence, but about cultivating and recognizing authentic spiritual authority. Behind closed doors, you are not even referred to by your real name. Instead, they call you the Natural. This title is reserved for individuals who embody leadership not because of training or inheritance, but because of character forged in the crucible of life's most brutal challenges. You were never polished, coached, or positioned for leadership. Your very being has already crystallized into a strength that cannot be manufactured. The only thing you require is access to resources and a platform. Your character is already the foundation. Financial analysts within this circle have modeled the impact of placing significant resources into your hands, and the results have stunned even the most skeptical. The projections show consistent exponential growth, not just in material influence, but in authentic impact, sustainable change, generational transformation, and what they call ripple effect multiplication. Unlike traditional power structures that hoard influence and wealth, your natural tendency is to distribute blessings in a way that uplifts entire communities. One voice in particular, a figure known for cold, data-driven decision-making, became deeply invested in advocating for you. This person, usually detached and analytical, shifted after witnessing how you responded to a situation that could have broken most people's faith in humanity. Where bitterness would have been expected, you responded with compassion. Where cynicism might have taken root, you instead grew wiser. That ability to transmute poison into medicine convinced them that you possess what is considered the rarest form of leadership. As we speak, contracts are being drafted, resources are being mobilized, and the decision is being finalized. What is being prepared for you is not merely an opportunity. It is an assignment that will shape not just your destiny, but the destiny of countless others you will impact. Before you step into this, you must understand why you were chosen over so many others. This isn't luck or chance. It is the culmination of something larger than yourself. For years, they have been searching not for someone with your exact resume, but for someone with your precise combination of battle-tested wisdom and uncompromised integrity. They've poured fortunes into consulting firms, headhunting agencies, and character assessment networks, all in pursuit of a leader who could carry this mantle without collapsing under the weight of it. The position remained vacant for so long because their standards were impossibly high. What makes this remarkable is that you never applied for any of it. You never courted influence or sought this stage. Your complete lack of awareness of this process became your greatest advantage, as you were not performing for approval. You were simply living with authenticity. That is why your character stood out. Without realizing it, every betrayal that could have hardened you instead refined your discernment. Every loss that could have embittered you instead deepened your empathy. Every injustice that could have made you cruel instead forged your commitment to fairness. While you thought you were healing your own wounds and helping others along the way, you were unknowingly attending the universe's most exclusive leadership academy. You were in the most important competition of your life, and the competitors had no idea they were being tested either. The process narrowed down to 3 final candidates, each representing a different model of leadership and influence. This was not a contest of resumes or achievements. This was a test of the soul. Teams of behavioral psychologists, cultural anthropologists, and even specialists, privately known as character archaeologists, studied you all. These experts are capable of excavating the deepest truths of a person's nature by analyzing unscripted responses to life's most unpredictable trials. No artificial scenarios were staged. Instead, real life was carefully documented. How you responded to setbacks, how you treated people when no one was watching, and how you carried yourself in adversity. They studied choice architecture, the pattern of decisions you made when you could have chosen selfishness, but chose service instead. They studied your stress responses, how your character shifted under pressure, and your value consistency, whether your private actions aligned with the principles you showed publicly. In every category, you scored in ranges that were once thought to be theoretical, almost impossible to reach. The first competitor, called the King, seemed flawless at first glance. With an impeccable resume, vast connections, and a golden reputation, he looked like the obvious choice. He possessed systems thinking, the ability to see ripple effects across markets and power structures. But deeper study revealed cracks in his foundation. His victories were built on broken promises, discarded allies, and zero-sum thinking where his gain always came at someone else's loss. His generosity was transactional, calculated for return on investment, and his loyalty was shallow, withdrawn the moment it no longer served his interests. What had looked like leadership was revealed as manipulation, and what had looked like strategy was exposed as domination. This was exactly what the Council of Observers wanted to avoid. The second competitor was more dangerous precisely because their flaws were harder to detect. Known as the bully, this individual carried a kind of charisma that often fools people into believing they are in the presence of authentic leadership. In the short term, teams could be rallied around bold visions, grand speeches, and the illusion of unstoppable progress. But beneath that polished exterior lived an insecurity so profound that power was only ever felt by stripping others of their own. The bully's true skill was in disguise, dressing abuse up as tough love, selling manipulation as strategic genius, and masking ego-driven decisions as sound business sense. Entire circles of enablers and fearful subordinates kept this illusion alive. The deeper the investigation went, the clearer the pattern became. Impressive credentials, inspiring beginnings, promises of transformation, only for morale to collapse once the bully's true nature emerged. Teams were dismantled through emotional manipulation, intimidation, and the isolation of anyone who dared question the methods. The most disturbing revelation was the bully's relationship with failure and criticism. Instead of viewing setbacks as lessons, scapegoats were hunted. Instead of accepting feedback as a gift, truth-tellers were punished. The obsession with being right was so consuming that projects were sabotaged rather than mistakes admitted. Left in the wake were broken relationships, collapsed ventures, and traumatized individuals scattered across an entire career trajectory. And then there was you, chosen one. At first, you were categorized as the wounded healer, someone who had endured pain, yet carried a desire to heal others. But as the investigation deepened, it became clear you represented something far rarer. You had walked through authentic trauma, betrayal, and devastating loss, yet you had not shrunk or turned cruel. Instead, you alchemized pain into wisdom without sacrificing strength. Where most people remain stuck in victimhood or become perpetrators themselves, you found the narrow path in between. You learned to transform wounds into sources of wisdom rather than weapons of revenge. What set you apart was not only your personal healing, but how that healing became a gift to others. You developed an almost supernatural ability to see through defensive behaviors into the pain beneath. Where others saw difficult personalities, you saw wounded souls. This perspective allowed you to respond with compassion where others would have reacted with judgment or anger. Assessments revealed something remarkable. You mastered the art of holding boundaries without building walls, of staying open-hearted without being naive, of lifting others without losing yourself. Every scar became a source of power rather than a weakness to be exploited. This wasn't borrowed wisdom or theoretical knowledge. It was understanding forged in fire, lived and proven through experience. More importantly, you discovered how to turn personal suffering into collective service, without bitterness poisoning the process. Your pain became medicine, your struggles became strength, and your victories became inspiration for others, still fighting battles you had already overcome. This ability to transmute poison into healing was exactly what the powerful circle had been searching for. What they did next would shock you. They initiated something called character forensics, a deep investigation into the true impact you've had on every life you've touched. Specialists mapped the ripple effects of your actions, following the transformations you sparked in others, sometimes without even realizing it yourself. That moment when you comforted someone in crisis. They documented how that person went on to support dozens of others, carrying forward the wisdom you shared. That word of encouragement you gave when someone was ready to give up. It prevented a suicide and redirected a life toward service that touched thousands. That act of forgiveness you extended to someone who betrayed you. It shattered a generational cycle of revenge, planting seeds of healing that stretched across decades. Their investigation was unprecedented in scope and sophistication. Private investigators traced social networks. Behavioral analysts projected your future impact based on past patterns, and impact trackers followed the long-term effects of your choices across communities. The purpose wasn't to invade your privacy, but to measure the true scope of your influence. What they discovered was staggering, a web of unconscious leadership that extended far beyond your awareness. Unlike traditional leaders who rely on titles, positions, and authority, your influence was effortless. You inspired transformation simply by being yourself. People were drawn to your energy, healed by your presence, and empowered by your example. Every authentic act of love, every genuine moment of courage, every choice to uplift instead of exploit. It was all carefully recorded by observers you never even knew were watching. The forensic analysis revealed authentic influence patterns that set you apart completely. Where others built dependency, you cultivated independence. Where others demanded loyalty, you inspired respect. Where others built empires, you grew communities. Where others gathered followers, you developed leaders. This organic approach was exactly what was needed for the unprecedented opportunity being prepared. The psychological profiles revealed the starkest contrast of all. The king was driven by ego, the need to prove superiority. The bully was driven by fear, an endless compulsion to control. But you, chosen one, were guided by purpose, fueled by a higher calling, and anchored in the desire to serve something greater than yourself. That distinction became the deciding factor, for the role being prepared required someone who could carry immense influence without being corrupted by it. The evidence left the council stunned. While the king left broken promises and discarded allies, and the bully left trauma and destruction, you left healing, growth, and hope. When the scope of your impact was examined, something unprecedented came to light. Every single person whose life you had touched in a meaningful way testified to the same truth. You had given without expectation. You had appeared in their darkest moments, not because it advanced your interests, but because you understood the depth of suffering and could not bear to let another soul walk through it alone. You gave not out of abundance, but out of the scars that became your wells of wisdom. And beyond generosity, you embodied what experts called authentic resilience. This wasn't the resilience of privilege or the luck of favorable circumstances. Yours was resilience forged in fire, tempered in hardship, and strengthened by conscious choice. You learned how to stay connected to your heart while engaging a sharp strategic mind. You learned humility without abandoning responsibility. You managed to remain accessible without draining yourself for emotional vampires. The final test came through what they called pressure testing, watching how each candidate performed when life's weight pressed hardest. The king cracked, becoming more ruthless and calculating, exposing his foundation of manipulation. The bully imploded, lashing out destructively to preserve the illusion of control. But you, chosen one, grew more compassionate, more wise, and more powerful with each trial. You transformed under pressure instead of breaking. You elevated rather than corroded. That pattern alone convinced the observers that you possess the rarest quality of leadership, the ability not just to endure hardship, but to transmute it into strength. Yet, the same qualities that attracted powerful allies also awakened the fear of rivals. The bully, unable to accept being passed over, launched a covert campaign to discredit you. This wasn't a loud attack, but a carefully orchestrated character assassination. Subtle doubts were planted about your readiness. Whispers suggested you were too compassionate to handle high-stakes decisions, and quiet insinuations painted your discernment as weakness. Mutual connections were recruited to question your stability, pointing to your past struggles as evidence of unreliability. It was a sophisticated operation of political maneuvering and psychological manipulation. They knew how to disguise selfishness as pragmatism, cruelty as strength, and manipulation as leadership. These were games of power you had never played, because authenticity had always been your compass. What the bully failed to understand was that your so-called weaknesses were in fact your greatest strengths. Your careful consideration was not indecision, it was wisdom. Your refusal to rush into commitments was not fear, it was discernment. Your habit of weighing the impact of your actions on others was not weakness, it was the exact leadership the world was starving for. The Council of Billionaires watched this unfold with fascination. In truth, they had deliberately allowed the bully to uncover the process, knowing the response would reveal everything. They wanted to see how you would react when confronted with sophisticated opposition, whether you would compromise your values to fight on their side level, or remain grounded in authenticity while still advancing your mission. And then something extraordinary happened. You did not mirror the bully's tactics. You did not descend into their games. Instead, you demonstrated a kind of spiritual mastery that none of them had witnessed before. You remained laser-focused on your mission, allowing their negativity to collapse under its own weight. It was like watching an Aikido master in action, meeting force not with resistance, but with graceful redirection. Every attempt to smear your name only amplified your authenticity. Every lie was effortlessly contradicted by those who had experienced your truth. Every effort to portray you as weak only highlighted your true strength. What mesmerized the council was that you weren't operating from strategy at all. You were simply living your character. You didn't fight for validation, you embodied it. You didn't counter every accusation. You let your life speak louder than the slander. You continued to show up with the same consistent energy, the same heart of service, the same unwavering principles. You weren't ignoring the attacks. You were consciously choosing not to be diminished by them. When your competence was questioned, you answered with excellence. When your compassion was called weakness, you revealed the power of emotional intelligence. When they implied naivety, you displayed wisdom honed not by cynicism, but by experience. The most dramatic moment came when the bully, desperate and cornered, overplayed their hand. They launched a direct assault on your very character. Lies about your past, false accusations about your motives, and fabrications about your integrity began to circulate. It was meant to destroy you, but it revealed far more about them than it did about you. This was the moment you revealed something so profound, it left even the billionaires speechless. They had seen candidates respond to slander with aggression, to opposition with retaliation, to sabotage with strategies of their own. But you, chosen one, did something that none of their data models or psychological forecasts had predicted. Instead of defending yourself or retaliating with anger, you responded with genuine concern for the bully's well-being. You recognized that such destructive behavior could only come from a deep reservoir of insecurity and unresolved pain. And instead of viewing them as an enemy to crush, you chose to see them as a wounded soul, acting out fear in destructive ways. Chosen one, this is the moment everything converges. The final decision is not just being made, it has been made. And what you are being offered is not simply an opportunity. It is a reconfiguration of your entire destiny. It is a complete transformation of your ability to shape the world around you. They are preparing to position you not just as a leader, but as the spark of something historic. Your role will not be to advance yourself. It will be to ignite a movement that could transform millions of lives. They are preparing to make you the face of a revolution that aligns perfectly with your soul's deepest purpose. Understand this: the magnitude of what is about to unfold is far beyond career advancement or financial elevation. This is not about giving you a seat at someone else's table. This is about giving you the blueprint and the resources to build an entirely new table, one that cannot be controlled by greed, fear, or manipulation. This is about positioning you to become a catalyst for global transformation. This journey, this calling, it is not something I can undertake alone. It is because of your unwavering support and belief that this moment is even possible. For that, I am eternally grateful. If this message resonates with you, and you feel called to be a part of this movement for authentic transformation, thank you for staying with us till the end.